You can support the Reality Check podcast on Patreon, GoFundMe, or by purchasing one of my books. Links down in the show notes below. Welcome to the Reality Check podcast. I'm Zachary Phillips. So in today's episode, I'm going to give you some updates, basically sharing with you where I'm at, what I'm doing, what I'm working on, and all that sort of stuff. Basically, the audio for this podcast has been stripped from a 16-minute video that I recently posted. So if you missed the video, this is a chance to get those updates and catch-ups. So yeah, enjoy. Hey guys, so I just wanted to take this opportunity just to give you a bit of a general overview of what I've been up to, what I'm doing, and the results I'm getting, and just to sort of connect with you on a bit more of a personal level. So first up, I've just released the next chapter of How to Get Your Shit Together. This one's called Express Yourself Daily. Basically, the idea is that if you've got something inside you that's building up, if you're struggling, if you've got a traumatic past, or you're just not feeling that great internally, artistic expression can be the best form. So for me, I obviously like writing, I like video, vlogging like I'm doing now. And, if you have a read of this chapter, not only will it tell you why it's important, but it'll also give you some instructions on how to get started to do it today. So I'll check the links down below to that, as well as everything else I'm going to talk about. Speaking of how to get your shit together, if you haven't already got it, it's obviously a monster of a book. So what I'm planning on doing over the next year is breaking it down. It's got 6 parts: overcome anxiety, defeat depression, move on from trauma, get organized, find meaning, and follow your dreams. So it's fairly comprehensive in this big book format. But what I'm going to do is make 6 separate little books that sort of have the same parts of the large book of how to get shit together, and put it into sort of 6 parts so you can purchase each one separately. And that way you're not if you want to sort of focus on one particular area, you can, and the book might not be that overwhelming. That being said, I've put it all together because I think that mental health is holistic, and I see a lot of self-help books talking about how to overcome anxiety or defeat depression, or sort of deal with the mental health stuff, but they sort of stop there. They don't really give you a point. They don't really tell you the sort of getting organized stuff. They don't give you the tools or the practical advice, and then they particularly don't give you that sort of deeper meaning, that deeper goal, sort of how to follow your dreams. Or on the other side of things, they will only focus on the how to follow your dreams stuff. I want it to be as comprehensive as possible, because basically this is the book that I wanted written when I was young, and when I was out of home at 15. It would have helped me immensely. I've had a couple of people asking me, well, why am I giving my stuff away for free? Why am I sharing every chapter of my books online for free? And the answer is, it's pretty simple, but it's also fairly complex. The basic answer is that when I was growing up, this resource would have helped me, and I wouldn't have been able to afford it. I was so tight for cash that basically all my money went to bills, food, that sort of stuff. I was relying on charity to survive. So given someone in that situation, for them to be expected to fork out money for a book on top of all that they're not guaranteed will work, as in they're not sure about, there's always that doubt, I think's a little bit unfair, particularly when I know that the advice will help. So the way I'm getting around that is by just releasing it for free and asking for support. So what that means is that basically I'm doing my mental health advocacy, stigma reduction, all this sort of stuff for free. But what I'm doing is providing options and ways that if people choose to, if they want to, if they're getting something back, if they feel like they're getting something from me and they want to give something back to me, they can. So I recently, just a couple of days ago, started up a GoFundMe, and I've had the first contribution, which was I was so blown away. It was a $50 contribution, and the little message that came with it was, "Thank you so much for doing important work that's so often avoided." And for a start, I can't thank you enough. It's one thing for people to comment and compliment. It's another thing for people to put their money where their mouth is, and just off their own back give something back. It blows me away. So thank you for that contribution. And like I said, if you feel like contributing to the GoFundMe or my Patreon, I'll put the links down below. the reason I'm selling the books as books is, once again, they'll be available online, but if you choose to support me, you can. And if you would like to own it physically or have it sort of an easier reference to look through, having the physical copy or the audio book or the ebook might be a better bet. Speaking of, I just wanted to give a little bit of a shout out to the first review that I've gotten for How to Get Your Shit Together. And once again, receiving words like this really just blows me away that I can have this impact and that people are starting to really see benefit from what I'm doing. So I just want to read it to you. So it's a 5-star review that says, the best self-help book I've ever read. What a fantastic book. All I can say is wow. It's a book that brings it all together. It's truly comprehensive, all-encompassing read, and is the one go-to book for self-help. I've read many self-help books over the years, and this one is absolutely a winner. It's an easy read, has practical advice, and easy-to-use tools to implement. It certainly delivers the promise of from surviving to thriving. Congratulations, Zachary, on a well-written and informative book. So once again, thank you. It's a bit surreal to have people talking about what I'm doing in that sort of context. But basically, this review has sort of hit the nail on the head with what I'm trying to do with this book, is provide that all-around advice that's practical, that you can implement. That I wrote a blog post recently, and basically the point of it was that a lot of self-help books are highly motivating, but they don't provide any practical, any actual advice. You know what I mean, and you've probably read a bunch of these before. You'll be reading them and you'll be like, yeah, this is great, this is great, this is great, and then your motivation just drops. And then you think back to what you've learned and you realize you've got nothing. You realize that you didn't really get anything from the book other than a temporary boost in motivation. For me, How to Get Shit Together is a bit different. I wanted to actually, do the motivation thing, but also give you some actual advice that works. So each chapter is self-contained, has advice that you can implement today. So moving forward, what am I doing? Okay, so there's a couple of projects that I'm sort of working towards. In general, I'm going to be doing the blogs, the podcast, and the videos like always. But I like to have a couple of, or at least one or two major projects that I'm working on. And now that How to Get Shit Together's done and out there, I feel so much more freer mentally, because it's like this massive project is finally out there and available. And yes, I'm going to break it down into the separate books like I said earlier. But what am I working on new? There's a couple of things that you can sort of check out if you want more depth at zachary-phillips.com/books. The first one is called Wage Slave. This one's a anthology of short stories and poetry. And basically, well, I'll read you the blurb. It's basically it's my way of expressing my distaste for the way that we look at work-life balance in the West. So this is sort of a working blurb. Obviously, things will change and all that sort of stuff, and the picture that you see there may or may not end up being the ultimate one, but, we'll see. Anyway, as children, we all dream of amazing things that we will accomplish. What we will do, the places we will see, and the people we will meet. Then life happens. We get a job, get a house, and get into debt. We get used to a level of luxury that we can afford, and we define ourselves by our incomes, possessions, and positions. We settle. We trade away our youth for security in old age. We spend countless hours performing mundane tasks that leave us depleted and empty. Our souls crave meaning, but we are too afraid to make any change. We work for the weekend, work for the holidays, work for retirement. Through a collection of short stories and poetry, the Wage Slave Anthology aims to highlight the absurdity of the modern approach to work and life. So like I said, this is a work in progress. I've got 2 chapters of this book out now, and there's another 2 that I'm basically just, next time I have some free time, I'll upload those 2 chapters. This one's I'm going to sort of do this one in a bit of a reverse order. So like with my second book, Upgrade, I released 1 chapter and then just released the whole book without sort of releasing them over the time. Whereas with Wage Slave, I'm basically going to release it chapter by chapter, and when I feel like it's done, I'll collate it all into a book that can be purchased on its own if people like. So I'm sort of going about it the opposite way, but basically one of the things that really sort of has sort of prompted me to start this whole sort of project of what I'm doing online here was my my inability, my displeasure, my hatred towards the way that the modern approach to work in life, this money hungry, sacrifice yourself for retirement sort of approach. Highly inspired by a couple of movies, basically, and books, Fight Club and American Beauty. They really sort of hit me hard as a young man, and this is sort of a little homage to that. So the second thing that I'm currently working on is something that I think will be a very good conversation starter. It's called 1 in 5, Destroying Stigma with Statistics. Now, so once again, I'll read you the blurb and that'll tell you a bit more about it. Now, once again, it's not a blurb, it's more of a description of it. 1 in 5 will highlight the reality of mental illness, disability, substance use and abuse, inequality, race, and other factors through an easy-to-digest presentation of real data that's completely referenced. As the name suggests, I hope to destroy stigma by creating a highly shareable resource, backed with real evidence that will serve as a conversation starting point. So some featured facts. 1 in 5 adults are currently suffering from a mental illness. Suicide is the leading cause of death for males aged 15 to 45. $16 billion is spent annually on cosmetic plastic surgery in the US. 25 out of 100 pregnancies end in miscarriage. And 56% of prisoners in America are black or Hispanic, yet they only make up 28% of the population. So basically this project will, the way I'm sort of envisioning it, now obviously how things sort of, the way you envision stuff never really turns out the same, but this is how I'm hoping. So maybe we can look back at this video and go, oh well, you know, what did I actually do? But what I'm imagining is on one side of a page, you've got the stat, for example, 1 in 5. And on the other side of the page, I'm going to have that explained. 1 in 5 adults are currently suffering from mental illness, and sort of like a little takeaway of what that actually means, as well as the reference to where that data was sourced from. At the end of the book, I will have a reference list, obviously, that is very comprehensive, and Harvard and all that sort of jazz. The idea that will be that this book will be a very quick read, as in you could flick through it, you know, within 30 minutes. Not a big read at all. But it's sort of like, you'll look through it and you'll be like, huh, I didn't know that $16 billion is spent on plastic surgery. Think about what that actually means in terms of money, right? $16 billion a year in the US alone is spent on plastic surgery. That's a lot of money, which means there's a lot of stuff happening. 1 in 5 adults are currently suffering from mental illness. 1 in 5. If you know 5 people, one of them is likely, on average, to be struggling with some sort of mental health concern. Now, there's a bunch more facts that I'll obviously put into this book, but the point is pretty simple. Basically, that I want to try and use real data to help get the conversation started around stigma. For me, obviously, being a male, mental health and sort of gender issues and all that sort of stuff is just not talked about. Well, it is, it's getting better, I'm not going to lie, but there's obviously a lot more room to grow and a lot more room to go with that. So this book will be a definite sort of little, my grain of sand towards that sort of process. Does that make sense? So all of the stuff that I've talked about here, I will put a link in the show notes below so you can check out and you can have an idea of what I'm talking about, and have a look at the imagery and read about it all for yourself. Those 2 books that I just mentioned, The Wage Slave and the 1 in 5, they are going to come. I'm going to be working through them slowly. But if you want to help make those a reality, like I said, the best way you can do is by supporting me. So please consider, you know, contributing to the GoFundMe or the Patreon, or by purchasing one of the books that I've already got out. And if you can't afford to do that, or you don't want to do that, there's a couple of other ways that you can help me out, and that's basically by reviewing me wherever you're listening to me, clicking that like button, and most importantly, just sharing things with people. I say this a lot because it's vital, but you know, you might not feel comfortable talking about mental health, mental illness, stigma, all that sort of stuff like I am, and that's completely understandable, I get that. But what you can do is just say, hey, are you okay? Hey buddy, you know, do you need some assistance? Hey, can I help you? Hey, I found this resource. Yeah, so if something I'm doing, a video, a blog, a podcast, anything that I'm doing could help someone, send them a private message or post it on your Facebook page or wherever you are on social. You know, like text it to someone. And the reason I'm saying this is about a couple of reasons. Number one, the advice could actually help them. And potentially more importantly, if you sort of reach out with that olive branch and say, hey, you know, check this out, hey, this resource can help, hey, you know, what do you think about this? That might actually get them to think that you're someone who's open and available to talk to in a time of need, right? They might feel safe enough to come to you rather than doing something that they might later regret or something quite permanent, yeah? So to get real on you, considering the stats that we just said, 1 in 5 people are currently suffering, and suicide is a major factor, particularly for men, but for women as well. By saying, hey, I'm someone that is comfortable talking about this sort of stuff, you want to talk to me at some stage? It might literally save lives, or save a lot of pain. So, with all that in mind, I am blown away by the constant messages that I'm getting, the likes, the shares, the connections, the private messages that are just saying, hey, I've been following you for a year and I'm loving what you're doing. I can't stress to you enough how good that makes me feel. It's very lonely doing this sort of stuff online, because what I've realized is a lot of people are watching, but not many people are engaging. And maybe they're not engaging because they are afraid, or because of the stigma, or because whatever. But please, if you click that like button, or even more so, just comment and sort of let me know what you're feeling and what you're thinking, it really helps, because I've been blown away by the comments that I'm getting, and I'm repeatedly surprised when I hear, oh, you know, my friend's dad is listening to you. What? So it's just sort of gives me a little bit back. So yeah, like I said, if you can support me, please do. And thank you. I'll keep you informed of what I'm doing.